Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the No Closer Show. As always, I'm your host, Scott Carson. Excited to be here. And today holds a little bit more of a meaning in the podcast because we hit another milestone today, with today being the 1-year anniversary of the podcast really having its first listeners. I don't really count the 20th of August when it first went live because the only 3 downloads were from me. So August 21st, 2017. Really the launch. We hit 1 year today, and I have to give a lot of credit to the man, the myth, the podcasting legend here with me today, guy that approached me originally about a year beforehand saying you should do this, and finally I came to my senses. But from the amazing company, it's not only helping me but a lot of other podcasters out there really distribute and get the word out when they're doing and help us with marketing. A guy that is not only a vendor of ours, but now a very close and dear friend to what we do, Tom Hazzard, and obviously your wife, Tracy, and daughter, Alexandra, and the whole Hazzard clan out there. Just not from Hazzard County, that's all.
No. Yeah, it's family business.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. It's exciting to be here a year into the No Closer Show.
Yeah, I know. And we did start a little bit earlier with the Facebook Lives, kind of hunting our message and stuff like that, and kind of reaching out to our tribe. But it was literally, I think we got to thank Aaron Young a little bit, too, for bringing us together.
Definitely.
Because you were helping Aaron with his podcast originally, and we met at one of the Magnify Your Wealth Summits, and we're on the boat out there rocking in the ocean. And you're sitting there slowly, indirectly selling me on it. I'm like, oh no, it's more work.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's true and that's fair. But I really did believe it would help you with your business goals.
Yep. And
that's what I could see. And not only that, I also learned what a great marketer you are. And, you're always working, your email list and social media. So I knew you'd have, not only it would bring you benefits, but you would have success with it.
Yeah. And you guys do a lot of the heavy lifting. Let's just, first of all, those that don't know, we film it here. We film it, whether it's either Facebook Live or Zoom or jumping on Be Live, we film it. And then we upload the audio or the video files directly onto the Podetize platform, and then your team runs with it. So you do a lot of the magic, you do a lot of the production after we film. So I mean, yeah, I have to come up with a topic, and sometimes I come up with a topic 5 minutes before I go live. But you guys, so because there's a lot of people out there we've helped. I mean, we've got quite a few of our students are actually doing some podcasts. I know Dan Zatowski's got one he's launching with you guys. Garrison Gilbert's doing some stuff with you guys as well. I think Gail Greenberg and Chris Savigny are doing something with you as well too, which is really phenomenal. Jason Bible will hopefully do some stuff with you as well too, our good buddy.
He's done some, and he's we're in discussions with a new thing he wants to launch, which is exciting.
Exactly.
And I think even is Paul Lizelle somebody too, or no? That came from Dan Zatowski. So
I think it came from Big Dan. Yeah,
secondary connection. But anyway, it's a big network, and that's the thing about this. We don't actually market this service because so many people like you have such a great experience with it and get so much value out of it. Not a day goes by that I don't get a referral. And that's not to brag about it. It's just the reality is this has value. And it's, you would need 5 or 6 different VAs doing all sorts of different aspects of it. And you'd have to manage them in order to do this. And like you said, you upload your raw audio to our platform, submit it with your target publication date, and then our team goes to work automatically. We've built quite some systems, and this started for doing it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a need and a desire to go and start a podcast, to build an audience to market to, and it was an experiment, really, 5 years ago or something. And then once we built that team, people would say, can you do this for me? And so it grew organically for a while, and now it's its own big company with dedicated employees and growing every month. But this is the part that I really enjoy, Scott, is getting to know you. I've gotten, obviously, yes, we're in business together, certainly, but I've gotten to know you and become friends with you, and I really enjoy that. We've gone to multiple events together in the last year, which has been fun. And I love meeting the different people, like you mentioned, Dan Zatowski, and all sorts of others that you connected me with. But learning about all these different companies and seeing what each of them do, that's really fun for me. And what's also fun is that seeing how podcasting and content creation, creating all these assets that you can market, helps everybody regardless of the type of business they're in. And that's been the really another really fun aspect of this is everybody measures success differently and values it in different ways. But from a small local business like a local doctor's practice to a business like yours that's national, doing note deals all over the country, there are real tangible benefits that produce a far greater return than whatever cost there is and time on your part to do it.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree to that. It's been amazing because we've been to two different events in I guess you'd say local in Texas. One last night in San Antonio with Ryan Harper and the Propelio San Antonio group. And then I think Ryan's on it. Hey, good morning, Ryan. I see him commenting on Facebook there. And then also last Tuesday night up in Dallas for their big event with 900 plus people at. And it was interesting having people come up, oh, hey, I listened to the show, or hey, I listened to the podcast, or it's great to finally meet you. I met you, or I listened to you on a regular basis. And I'm like, okay, how'd you come across it? Because I don't know, an email blast or somebody shared it online, or I came across it organically, listened to other people's similar podcasts. And I think that's been the fun thing is it. Get me wrong, we enjoy marketing. We are a marketing beast here at We Close Nuts. With everything we've done, we've got a great staff. We do a lot of great things, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it is like, oh, crap, what I got to come up again? And if I can tell you this, that the podcast that Steph has joked about has obviously reinvigorated those creative juices flowing. It gives me something fun to do. And it's helped other aspects of what we do, specifically with us adding the two other kind of, I guess you could say, sub-podcasts.
Yes.
With us uploading all the Note 9 in America webinars on its own separate podcast and seeing the 4,000 or 5,000 downloads we have from that, or 3,500, something like that, which is not a huge download asset. There's like 18 or 19 episodes. I got to upload 2 more on there. But it's still people watching it that way. And then, of course, taking Note Camp 5.0 and making its own separate series. And that's at the 6,000 or 9,000 downloads too. So combined, over 150,000 downloads in our first 12 months. And that's what we shot for as a goal. We thought we might hit it. There was a while there, especially in May, when we had the worst download month ever.
Who knows? Graduation season, who knows what they're doing.
I was in Hawaii, not really doing much for a week.
Well, there's that too, right?
Right. But that's some of the big things that we have learned, and it has definitely helped out. And you've got more numbers behind what we've done because you see a lot of that stuff, the analytics numbers behind the views, the downloads, the uploading. Because you guys take the audio, you scrub it, you clean it, you transcribe it. You then log into our website, our WordPress site, and upload it as a blog, whole transcription.
Right.
That in itself has just blown up the SEO optimization, right, Tom?
That's the critical thing. Don't get me wrong, podcasting and this live to Facebook video thing, those are great mediums, and they're incredible ways to reach people that we didn't have, 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. So, and the podcast audience and followers on Facebook are wonderful things, and they get to know you and like you, and you don't even know them, right? You're in their ear, or they're watching you all the time. So that is valuable in and of itself. But the real value is converting it into a blog post. And I know to a lot of people that's like, what? I don't really, why would that matter? I mean, who's going to go read that whole blog? That's not the point. It's, the blog is a resource for your listeners. Certainly there are links to everything you talk about. And even when you mention another company in the note world on one of your podcasts, that gets transcribed. It's in the blog post that's linked out to that company. And you have actually outranked some of the companies. When you search on their own company name in Google search, your podcast post will even come up above or right below that company's name. So when people are searching for that company and they don't know you, you pop up. And guess what? On that first page of Google, right there near that, they're probably going to click it and check it out. So this is the real value, is casting a much wider net for marketing your business on Google search, because people are going there first. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I like Facebook too. I like LinkedIn and all the different social media channels that there are. But if I've got an area of interest that I want to learn more about, or I have a pain point of some kind, I'm going to Google first. And I think the majority of people are. I mean, the Google search stats are staggering as to how many billions of searches there are per day. And so when they go to Google and your post shows up in that first page of Google search, your chances of getting someone to click and go to your site are pretty high. Mm-hmm. And that we see that client after client looking at their total platform. Okay. Their podcast analytics. Yes. And podcast analytics are notoriously light on specific data, although they continue to get better. But on Podetize, we provide not only your podcast analytics, but your website analytics. That's a part of your whole platform. And you need to see how it's all tracking over time. How many new links are you getting every month? How many more organic keywords are you ranking on? And once you start to see that and analyze those keywords, you can say, wow, that's great. What are the keywords that are related to that? What else might I like to rank on? And then you can create an episode and inject those keywords into it. And what I mean by that is you're going to talk about those keywords. And that's the fun part. Come up with a list of half a dozen keyword phrases, keep them by your side as you're doing your episode, and organically, naturally work them into the conversation. And then with our system, you'll end up ranking on that. And you remember how fast, isn't it amazing how fast that happens, Scott?
Yeah, because I think we started off, you ran some analytics to begin with, and I think I was ranking on 17 keywords or something like that. It was small compared to what I thought it was, but then it blossomed up to, I don't even know where it's at now. Have you done a search on it lately?
I have, and I can pull it up while we're talking here, and I'll let you know. Says we like I said, we've included those stats on our dashboard. So I'm just going to go to your show and check it out while we're talking. And the reality is, to get those kind of stats, you'd have to have a subscription that's $100 a month to a service that's all they do. But we have an API and integrated into the dashboard, so you have it in one place. And so you've increased. I mean, you're ranking on, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of organic keyword phrases now. And the thing that is amazing is it happens so fast. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Where are you? You are ranking on 714. Now that's from one service. There's another competitive service that puts a lot more keywords in there that are less valuable. And I'm sure you rank on, well over 1,000, but we've dialed it into what are the real valuable ones, right? The ones that you rank very high on the page for, that there's a lot of people searching for, and not, I would say, throwaway keywords that, yeah, you're ranking on stuff, but it doesn't matter. So 714 organic keywords that are very valuable, that have pay-per-click values ranging from a few bucks to, $20 and $30. And if you ever monetize your site, that's pretty easy to make money on those posts. And that's not how you do your site and your marketing, but a lot of people do.
Right.
But the speed with which it happens. So I think we met in an event in Anaheim last October. Your podcast was 2 months old, maybe. And you we published an episode on a Wednesday, and by Saturday we looked it up, and you were ranking on the first page of Google search for that company's name.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a matter of a couple days. Now, we hadn't checked on Thursday or Friday, so I don't know how quickly it happened.
Right.
But we did this even for ourselves with other keywords with our Feed Your Brand podcasts. And we did a episode in April on the best and worst podcast websites, right? Because that's one of the things we end up doing is even though, yes, we're a podcast production company, people come to us and they don't have a website. Well, we have professional web developers on staff that can create that website for you very quickly. And so we've come to experience all different platforms, Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, custom coded sites all over the place. And we decided to do an episode on that because we felt that WordPress was without a question the best platform to build your website on for a number of different reasons. And so we did this episode not intending to rank on those keywords, but we ended up within 11 hours of publishing the blog post and the podcast, ranking on the first page of Google search for 3 different keyword phrases: best podcast websites, worst podcast websites, and I think just podcast websites. And we still rank on those today. That's some of our highest value keywords. All that came from recording about a 25, 30-minute podcast where we just discussed the issues around that. And it continues to serve us today. And we get people finding us and doing business with us just off Google search. So that's the power of the content. And while you're a master at the video content and now doing the podcast content, if you leave it at that, at the video on Facebook or the podcast on iTunes and Google Podcasts, and you don't convert that into a written blog post for your site, you're just leaving money, reach, marketing opportunity on the table. It's really wasted. You want to bring people to your domain. You want people to go to weclosenotes.com, right? You're the hub of information, not iTunes or, Facebook is great, having people engage in your Facebook group. But if you really want to engage that audience, you got to get them to your turf.
Yep.
So
that's one of the big things I think we've learned more so from watching, just being a part of other groups like Podfest, and what Chris does with Podfest, an amazing event, or what Jared did with Podcast Movement, two really good Facebook groups. We get a lot of interaction back and forth with other podcasters. But that's the one thing that I've seen from the get-go is people getting started that treat it as a hobby, but they want it to be a business. But they don't have the seriousness about taking that next step. And that's the thing that I think we've always looked at least I've always looked at, is any type of content or marketing I put out there is my own media aspect of things. And what was funny when Steph and I were in Vegas for a training thing we did with a couple students out there, we had a boardroom out there. We were sitting there talking about, and suddenly it dawned on me, going back to the days of, 20 years ago, I was at East Texas State University on a football scholarship, okay?
Yeah.
Studying radio television, okay? I was a college DJ, all right? It was one of the things I had to do for my going into the radio station and literally putting the headphones on and figuring out the music and, recording myself on audio. And I had this massive flashback in the middle of freaking the Rio. All right. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is also the evolution of me wanting to be the Dan Patrick the next Dan Patrick on ESPN.com, the announcer. I'm not a sportscaster, but I've learned that this is my kind of at my venue. This has become my media, my Turner Networks.
Yeah. And you own your own media. That's the thing, right? And yeah, you have videos on, I don't know, Vimeo or YouTube or wherever, you have them out there on these other channels, which is great. But if everybody stayed there, that benefits that channel, right? That benefits YouTube or it benefits Vimeo. So giving people resources only on your website, reasons to come to your website is the big deal. But that's how you own your own media, which you've done, and you're a stellar example of, no question.
Well, what's funny is we see some of our, I guess you could say, pseudo competition starting to try to imitate some of the things out there. We know somebody that was starting a podcast, and they're only trying to do a little bit. And I'm like, why dip your toe in? You can't learn how to swim by just dipping your toe in the water. You got to jump full in and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, everybody's trying to copy. Like, no, I'm not worried about it, because it is still a very small niche aspect of things. I said, I doubt this person or these people are going to deliver every day for the most part. And let's see what happens after a year. Year after year, because what is there, over 500,000 different, I guess, podcasts, 600,000, something like that on iTunes, but only 40% are active of some sort, right?
Right. It really, over the years, iTunes won't delist a podcast if you stop putting out new content. Now, if you stop paying for hosting it somewhere, it's going to drop off. But as long as you're paying for the hosting, it's going to stay there. So yes, the active amount of podcasts are, depending on the platform, anywhere from 30 to 40%. And then out of that 600,000 you mentioned, not all of those are English speaking, primarily podcasts. So in terms of a medium to go and compete in, think about this. Let's say there's 250,000 English speaking podcasts right now that are, well, it may not all be active, but let's just use that because it's a nice number, 250,000 podcasts. And maybe that's on the high side of English speaking active podcasts. That is a relatively small pool to compete in compared to the 1.5 billion websites that are on the internet. So it's a good way to rise above the crowd and, be able to make a name for yourself, establish your authority and expertise in a field. But then the other wonderful thing about, like we were talking about, the web blog post content is that Google doesn't discriminate. Google doesn't care if you're a big company or an independent just starting out. You have a website and you're producing original content, Google's going to take notice, and it's going to rank you based on the relevance of that content, not who you are. So it is a level playing field, but a much bigger pool on the website. But certainly podcasting to blog posting, it fuels your content and really it can be a machine that works for you and harder than you do for it. I mean, you just record that. Now you're doing it almost every day. Yes. So you're committed, right? And in doing that, you don't have to do it every day, but do it on a consistent basis. All you got to do is talk either with a guest, with a co-host, or by yourself for 30 minutes to an hour, and then hand it off. And, the rest can be done for you relatively inexpensively. I mean, really, for the value you get out of it.
Yeah. And I look at some of the others that have been out there, like we're Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas from Ask Pat with Pat Flynn, and then also Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee doing 15-minute episodes. They're quick, punchy. It allows for you a lot of downloads to take place in a time frame. And I compare that I got my average episode is probably around 40 minutes long. I would say 40 to 50, right?
Easily, yeah.
I know you're not making much money on the transcription because my transcription is even not that per episode cost. Yeah. But the thing to look at. Every episode, it allows for you to carve out your little aspect of this, what you want your message to be. And we've always said, okay, we're going to do a mixture of interviews with vendors and guests and other people, and then also content of either topic, and using it as a kind of a teaching platform to get the word out. And it's opened up other doors, other avenues that I never even thought about. We've had people approach me. I'm speaking at an event here in a couple weeks. They asked me to come speak as an icon, which I was honored. We'll see how that goes. But also, Chris has asked me to speak at PodFest next year as well on that too. That's a big thing for us to talk about it. But it's a way to spread and expand your tribe, but more than anything else. And I do have to give a big shout out also to all of our guests.
Oh yeah,
we've had some really amazing guests come on the show. I think one of the best things I have to give a big shout out, because I see some of them watching on here, is when I learned from my week-long hiatus on Mai Tais in Maui of not doing any episodes for the week. It hurt my downloads, but then I have to give a big shout out to my guest hosts when we went to Europe for 3 weeks, who stepped up. They jumped on. Cody Cox came on for an episode because he's still busy working, but he still delivered great. Bill Griesmer was on there, did a great job. Gail Villanueva did a great job. Gail Greenberg, Patty Ped, Katie Moton, who's still very busy, was for a couple shows. Chris Savigny, I see you on there, buddy. Chris did a great job being on a couple episodes. So I think that's every. Oh, and let's not forget our buddy who already commented on here, Eric Hyde, did a great job as well. So those 8 individuals did a great job out there. And what's funny is Eric's used his episode. He's taken his links that Podetize came up with, the links and stuff that go back to everything you emailed out to. He's had over 1,100 downloads on his episode alone.
Wow.
It's not top 10 for the year. It's top 10 last 90 days.
Sure.
But he told me he's had at least 4 investors come to him and fund deals based on finding him on the podcast.
See, that's the value. You're putting yourself out there, right? And you're building a community, and that reach. I mean, so that's the great value of the podcast, the guest scenario, like you just said. So, your guest uses the podcast to reach people that they're connected to, but at the same time,
you just saw Eric's post, didn't you?
I saw that quote.
Eric, guys, damn right, brother. It's because I was topless.
But you're always expanding your network with all the people listening and all the people they share it with, right? And that's why we do that guest communication for all our clients and create a graphic. It's all about them because they always share it, and that helps you and it helps them. So it's a win-win all around. Excellent.
One of the other things that's been surprising from the last year is the amount of international listeners.
It is really something. Yeah. Your show has
we average about 4 to 5% international.
Yeah.
All over.
And you have 36 countries that your show has been listened to in. 36 countries. That is a lot. So yeah, your reach, whether you want it to be or not, it becomes national and international. Because when you register, for instance, at least I'll just speak for iTunes. When we register your show on iTunes, it automatically gets registered in every version of iTunes in every country around the world. So you end up having an incredible reach. And we found, like, on our shows, we have a huge audience in Brazil, of all places. Who knew? But that's great. And they engage, they write in, they ask questions. So
we have had flags show up. I think one of the things we mentioned on the podcast, actually, I've got a Brazilian flag here. Literally one of the first months of the show, somebody took the time to send me literally a flag.
Wow.
And it's not a small flag, obviously, but they sent it. We've had probably a dozen of these flags show up from our listeners all across the world, which is just mind numbing. But coming down to it, it's great because we see people, our guests, our hosts, or some of our students are out raising capital. They're leveraging the podcast themselves, sharing it. It's a win-win. We've raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars in private capital from our listeners who come on, and they not only do they come and watch the show, but they jump over to Note Night in America, or they jump onto our Facebook group and then network with other students. And that's the whole thing. I think a lot of people worry about is some people in the industry, they want to keep it all very controlled. I don't want any outside influences coming in. And a book that I read a while back that really made me change my mind was the whole, what would Google do? If you've ever read that book about how they had open platforms and sharing apps and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, being more open rather than closing it off and trying to, wall it off and own, it's really the old open source versus even with the old, operating systems and software sort of thing, right? Windows versus Mac. And I mean, people don't really remember Apple is what it is today because of smartphones and other things. Apple, when in the computer world, was not open, right? And so long ago, Microsoft dominated, and for the similar reasons. So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So what else about what would Google do? Or were you gonna?
Well, I'll just say that's always one of the biggest things that made me think about, okay, let me try to share more. Let's let's open up webinars. Let's not be afraid to hit the share button, and when we're doing on Note Camp and blast it to Facebook Live as well for people out there to learn and get the message out. And that's led from us having, that's literally doubled our audience. I think that's I think I sent you an email about a week ago as I was running through numbers. Okay, where do we expect to hit by the time we hit the 1 year anniversary? And then jumping over. Okay, and I have to thank Shannon in my office. Shannon did the hard thing of going back a year through all the Facebook videos.
Oh, wow.
And seeing, okay, what episode, how many hits that had. And that's over 80,000 views on our Facebook Lives.
Wow.
Last year. And that number, she started doing that a while back. So it's not exactly accurate. It's more than that, but that's the low end of it. And then, of course, we've got another 70,000 views through Facebook and YouTube. And we haven't even really touched and put a lot of work into optimizing YouTube either, though. That's the crazy thing. But it gives people alternatives to see where they can come across, whether it's visual through Facebook Live, visual through YouTube, the second largest search engine,
right?
The written word, through the website, through you guys uploading it, and that gets SEO optimized into search engines as well. Coming across it on Facebook, tweaking. I think it was the biggest thing. Just a few weeks ago, I noticed an uptick. I reached out to Alexandra. Said, Alexandra, can we add one important keyword to our description? Boom! Next day, 1,500 downloads. I think off that one keyword, and then tweaking the things that we do.
Well, you know what? That's a really good point too, and that's something that has changed over time on iTunes, and usually the other platforms follow iTunes on this. Used to be your podcast description only had like 500 possible characters you could put into it, so you're limited how much you could say. They opened that up to 4,000 characters.
Wow.
In the description, and so we've been going back for our clients systematically, one and then another, if they are open to it. Not everyone wants to change it, but to make those descriptions longer and incorporate more keywords into it. In our view, it's like, well, why not? You have this real estate. Let's expand the description and cast a wider net for people, so it will come up in more searches. And so we recommend that. The other thing that you've done brilliantly, which is something that we started doing, I think it was late last year, I forget, but allowing so our podcasters that host on Podetize to have up to 5 feeds for their in the standard hosting package, and that means 5 show identities for the same subscription, and allows you to break off, like you've done, into No Night in America, Note Camp. And here's the brilliant thing about that, and I actually pulled it up on iTunes just before we got on today, is that when you search on Scott Carson, or We Close Notes, any of the number of different keywords that are associated with you, coming up on the search results from iTunes, you have 3 show positions out of the 6 that show up in that first screen before you scroll or start digging deeper. So you dominate that search page with your own stuff, because iTunes, if you have one show, iTunes is going to throw a lot of other stuff in there that they think you might also be interested in, and you get distracted by other shows. And even though they searched on your keyword, they may not end up, looking at your show if they see something else that's more attractive. So dominating that search page, this is another brilliant strategy that you jumped on. And I've been excited to see how that works for you. And it doesn't matter if they only have 4,000, 5,000 downloads on each of those other shows. Everybody's subscribed to your main show, but you're dominating that search page. That's the bigger value.
So it's funny. I was in Ohio at the Midwest Note Summit, not last week, but the weekend before last, the 11th and 12th. And really, our podcast, for the most part, is really the only truly active note investing podcast. Robbie Woods and Chase Thompson, students of ours, started Note MBA, did a great job, and then just let it fizzle off at the beginning of this year. There's another show out there, Serena Harris, who has Note Inc. out there, and I actually got a chance to meet her last weekend in Ohio. We were talking, and I'm like, when are you gonna do some more shows? There's only a few of us Note podcasts out there that are consistent. She's like, oh, I'm dropping 2 episodes, new season. I'm like, that's great. And she's like, yeah, I've had like 13,000 views on my podcast since in the last year, and I haven't done an episode. I'm just that good. I'm like, no, it's probably because they're going and searching for mine, and yours pops up as well. Like, yeah, I think you might be right about that.
Well, you always talk about co-opetition, right? I mean, the reality is that there is something to that. There's nothing wrong with some more shows that are coming out that are note related. I think it's going to help everyone, and we all help each other, no question. I'm kind of like you. I mean, yeah, we provide a great service, but I'm also completely open about everything we do. You could do everything we do. You could have your staff do it, or hire more people to do it, or do it yourself if you're really that type of person. But most of us in business don't have that kind of time. And most people wouldn't do it all. We have it all systematized, and it gets done, in a very predictable amount of time. So I'm very open about what we do and why it works and the benefits of it. And I even other podcast producers, I'm telling them about it, and a lot of them have us do it for them, sort of behind them to their customers, which is fine with me too.
That's a great thing. It's a really true win-win, though. It's a win across the board there for sure.
So what is new coming up for the next year with the Note Closer show?
That's a good question. We're going to do some, I think one of the biggest things looking back at our top 10 episodes is seeing, we've had most of the episodes, including me. Aaron Young was the number 6 one, which is
wow.
Business Models, which is great.
That is great.
That was the 3rd episode out there.
I was talking to Aaron just yesterday, and he's like, God, Scott is really showing me up on the podcast that I have to go record more content. And then to see that he's the number 3 or number 6 episode on your show, that's great. So Aaron, if you're listening to this, you can achieve a lot with your own podcast. Look what's happening to you on Scott's.
Well, I was actually funny. I was talking to Megan over there and saying, listen, why don't you just bring on some of your clients?
Yeah.
Some of your Laughlin associate clients, besides just doing the lookout, and talk about that. And that'll add a lot of value there for a lot. And then he doesn't even have to be on any time. We have Megan or Brent or Lee up on there. Lee can get off of his tractor and come in and help out a little bit as well. So I'll talk to Aaron about this weekend. So
yeah, seriously, because with all the companies that they do business with, I mean, they have years worth of guests waiting to be unlocked, and it would help both them and their companies and Laughlin. I know it'd be a killer podcast. Somebody who has the somebody who has the power over there at Laughlin to make it happen just needs to decide to do it.
Exactly. So we have our mastermind coming up this weekend. Actually, I head up to Dallas tomorrow for Thursday, Friday. We've got 63 people coming in together. Obviously, we're going to have our vendors on. I have to give a big shout out to our sponsors, with Laughlin being a sponsor of our show, and Quest IRA being a big sponsor as well, too. We're excited to be a part of the Quest Expo this weekend. But just honored. I think we're just going to continue to do a lot of the same, the working formula that's been working. Case studies has always been a big thing. Bringing on students who are closing deals, whether they're closing their first one, they're closing on their 100th one. We're so proud of the growth that people are doing. Like I was talking to Laura Blunk last night, who's not been on the show, but she's up to number 15. I think she's closing on a deal. And so we're going to have her on. Seeing people people changing their lives, like Eric Hyde, it just says, my life has changed as a result of everything. That's awesome. Those are the true value is why we got into this to begin with. This whole teaching side wasn't to help me. It was to help others make things, because and by helping the people around you, you rise to the top as well. It's the whole mouse and the cream thing of being able to churn the butter around you and being able to help out and level up there with a servant leadership mindset is what we've had. If we can make others more successful around us, it's going to make us successful as a result of that. So that's part of it. Definitely, we started off at episode 150 here. I think this is episode 340, 330, something like that. We're going to work to deliver another 200 episodes this year, 150 plus in year 2. We'll probably add another sub channel to this as we add Note Camp 6. You and I have talked about doing some other things, bringing on the workshop on as a podcast, maybe at some point.
Are you going to do the National Social Media Day still?
We will do the National Social Media Day, yes. And going forward, I think what we're going to do is I actually had Christy and Elijah Woods in here as a guest yesterday, and working through the videos and that stuff, and they've had some issues on their end with the downloading it, and I don't know, something it was freaking long with it. I don't know what it is. I have to look at it with them. But yeah, we'll add No Social Media Day. I think the National Podcast Day coming up here.
Yes, coming up in September.
Yeah, September 30th is something we're going to be looking at and helping out with too. So what I love is that we can do this from anywhere, and that has helped out. Steph and I were talking about that last night because we have been traveling a lot in the last month.
Oh, sure have.
And we're like, look, we didn't want to travel this much a year ago. And so taking that and realizing, okay, tweaking some things that we do, I don't think we'll ever get rid of the podcast. I think we love it. It's become such a big thing that driving. When I look at what others are doing, and I'm on a panel this weekend with some really guys that I respect at the event, who have run some really big shops, and what they're dropping and marketing each and every month, 35,000 postcards, billboards, wow. 10,000 a month to run a radio show and stuff like that. And I compare that to what our budget is here and how much impact we have as the blowtorch that we've become. We're going to stick to this. We're going to add some new cool stuff. We may tweak a little branding or two. Need to go buy a new mic. Oh, great. But just trying to keep influencing others, keep spreading the word. Even on days when I don't feel like doing this, sometimes it's good to get on and see the comments and see the impact that we're having with everybody. That's the biggest thing for year 2 is just keep rock and rolling. Is if we can hit 500,000 downloads by in time year 2 rolls around, that would have doubled our numbers.
I think that should be the goal.
I'll throw it up there.
Let's do it.
500,000 downloads by end of year 2.
By the end of year 2. I believe you can do it. I really do. I think just the show reach is growing, and yes, it's a niche market, but I think that's be a great example. Who are we bringing on?
They're just delivering my mail in my office.
Oh. Thought you were like grabbing somebody by the arm to pull them in.
No. Right. I do have a big goal too, and I think this is something that's popped up here really fast, is that we have a sub podcast that Stephanie has started called the Fur Babies Podcast. And I honestly think that will blow away the Note Closure Show.
Do you know how popular pets are?
I know. I don't.
Oh my God.
I made a joke last night where my speaking thing is, but she's got 2 on her belt. We'll get those 2 uploaded this week onto the platform, and then get her on a regular basis. And that's the biggest thing is, I think the note business is going to be around forever. We're going to see a downturn again here in the next year or 2. My goal is to get a couple big guns from Wall Street on the show this year. I think it'll be a good thing. We had it kind of mistakenly happen in one podcast episode where we had a Wall Street fund call me back and return my phone call while I was filming.
Wow.
Goldman Sachs strikes again in that episode, if you get a chance to listen to. But I think that's the big thing. Let's do 500,000 downloads in year 2. Let's keep pushing it and help as many others, find success, whether it's an episode once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever it is, help get things done.
Just curious, you mentioned you think it's going to be a downturn now. Is that just in the note business, or a downturn in the economy and real estate that's going to fuel the note business?
Yes.
That's sort of what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if I look back 10 years ago in 2008, when I really got started doing notes full time, it was just the shit was hitting the fan. Mm-hmm. And it was a crazy time. And obviously in the last 10 years of this whole secondary market of private note buyers, note investors, note conferences that are focused on distressed debt has popped up. And some have come, some have gone, some are doing well, some are just faded away. It's just all about consistency and building a solid business. And we see a lot of that with the default rates starting to creep up there, pricing values dropping down, days on market starting to increase in hot markets, supposedly. It's just a matter of time. I think the tariffs situation economically are going to affect a lot of people losing their jobs and things like that in other areas. Yeah. Hopefully we get that fixed and other stuff. But I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the show, who we bring on this next year. We've had some of our rivals reach out to us and see if they could be on the show. Always interesting. But
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah. Good stuff. We got a whole schedule. I'm probably going to hire a full-time person just to handle the podcast show, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's sort of something illuminating. If it's providing enough value to you, that you're going to hire someone to help support you even beyond what we do, that I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, I think they're going to handle more so of scheduling, managing that stuff, being helpful as we've been asked to be at more podcast events because they're kind of central to Orlando for us. I think they would help out more so with that, definitely. So
great.
But you guys have done. I just wanted to again say thank you to you, Tracy, Alex, everybody over there at Podetize. We would not have been where we're at trying to do this all ourselves. I want to say thank you for pulling out your own bat. Can't find my bat here this morning. Hitting me a couple times on the head. And I'm a thick. I got a big skull here. Sometimes it takes a good whack or two.
No, actually, you're a model, podcaster in many ways. Everybody goes through some periods where they're, there's a little pause or they're not sure what they think about it, but anyway, you're a shining example. So we're very pleased to be working with you and supporting you, get the most out of your show. So Thank you for trusting us with that. And we are very excited about year 2.
Yeah, same here, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, guys. I once again thank you to all of our listeners out there, both domestic and abroad. I want to thank every one of our guests we've had on. Those are our guest hosts. Thank you as well. Also out there, big shout out to Stephanie Goodman as well, who puts up my crazy ass and makes sure the bills get paid as well to the podcast, along with collecting from our vendors. So could not do without her. But once again, guys, listeners, if you enjoy this, please take a few minutes, take a second to go over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. We'd really appreciate that. But more importantly, if you enjoy the show, share it with somebody. Share it to your Facebook platform if you're watching this. Share it on Twitter if you've enjoyed. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher or any of the other podcast platforms, that's the only way we get the word out on what we're doing and expand it outside of our tribe and really help everybody grow out there. And that's really how we make America great again, one Note Closer Show episode at a time. Until then, guys, have a great day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.